Okay, I'm so happy to be here, everyone. My name is Caryn Ann Harlos. Justin was asking me for my particular positions or titles, and I said, just call me an activist, and I'll give them all, because there's too many. But I'm the Region 1 representative on the Libertarian National Committee. I represent 9 states, and I kind of have to go through them alphabetically in my head: Alaska, Arizona, Colorado, Hawaii, Kansas, Montana, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming. I'm also the communications director for the Libertarian Party of Colorado, and I'm the Colorado State Coordinator for the Libertarian Party Radical Caucus, which is, as Justin said, the libertarian wing of the Libertarian Party. I'm also a very open anarchist. I would say that I'm probably right now, and I hope this isn't self-promoting too much, probably the largest known, most well-known within the ranks of the Libertarian Party anarchist activists within the party. And I think I've done a great deal to bring that issue more into acceptance. But I realize it's a bit of a tough crowd here, that most of you are very skeptical of political involvement. And I'm hoping that I'll be an example to you that there actually is a place for radical people within the Libertarian Party and even anarchists. I would say about 25% of the Libertarian National Committee are anarchists. A lot of people don't know that. And that the Libertarian Party has a rich history. And in fact, it's our official policy that anarchism is a specifically accepted political view within our party. And I'd like to give a little bit of history of that and then tell you a little bit more about the activism within the Radical Caucus to perhaps encourage you. So I hope you will indulge me a little bit in giving some of the history. I do, as I said, openly embrace the title of anarchist, but another title I happen to openly embrace. I do, like many people will do with negative words. They take a negative word and they turn it into a positive, like very many people in marginalized communities. Like you'll often see gay people proudly embrace the word queer, something that was meant to be used to harm them and as an insult, and then they take it as a point of pride. I've done that with the word anarchist, by the way. I used to feel like I was walking around with the scarlet letter A on my breast, and now I proudly declare I'm an anarchist. But something else I proudly declare is something that Kumpkin once used as an insult, and that is a party arc, which he called someone who has rejected the head of the state, which he described as an octopus, but still retains their party affiliation, and he described it as someone still grasping onto the last foul tentacle. But I actually don't see it that way. I'm a proud anarchist, and I'm a proud party arc. And the reason is, I do think that we, in actually somewhat, I don't want to use the word agorist because that's completely opposite, but somewhat in that spirit, I think we need to use every means possible to spread our message. And I often liken what I do to being a computer virus that is inserted into the system to bring the system down. The fact is that the state gives us, and I hate to use the word gives, but that is in fact what happens, or even the system that we're in, gives us a tremendous platform where you're given voice that you will not be given in any other areas if you're running a political candidate. All of a sudden, newspapers will give you attention. You will start getting certain platforms that you will not get in any other way. So I believe in taking advantage of all of those platforms that are available to us. So I don't think engaging in the political process to gain greater freedom is somehow capitulating to the system. I think it's a perfectly legitimate way of bringing about change. But to get back to the history of anarchism within the Libertarian Party, the party was formed here in Colorado in 1972. It was actually formulated around the living room of David Nolan Westminster and formally organized in Colorado Springs. But the founding convention was in Denver. And one thing that they were very clear on, and it was a diverse collection of anarchists, menarchists, a lot of Randians and classical liberals, and every view in between. But one thing that they were convinced on was that we had to be a party of principle. And what they did before they did anything else, such as adopt a platform or decide where they were going, is they adopted something called the Statement of Principles. And they were so convinced that this was essential to keep the party from being taken over by personality cliques or power-hungry power brokers, that they decided that we had to stand for something, and that this statement of principles could only be amended. And this is quite unusual for any of you who are familiar with the Democrat or Republican parties, that this statement of principles could only be amended by a super majority and a super quorum, meaning 7/8 of registered delegates at convention. If any of you had been to a convention of anything, never mind a political convention, you realize that 7/8 of the delegates or attendees are never even on the floor at one time. So this was a way of saying that this statement of principles, an article of faith as you would, a libertarian creed as you will, was practically impossible to change. Now they realized in 1972 that this was an extraordinarily serious step, because they basically were putting a depth charge into the policy, into the party, a self-destruct mechanism, that if they couldn't get 7/8 of the people to still agree with this, that basically the party was effectively dead. So they gave themselves 2 years to think about this statement of principles and came back together in 1974 with a one-time opportunity to amend it with a 3/4 majority rather than a 7/8. The party at that time could have scrapped the whole thing. They could have made it more moderate. But in fact, what they did in 1974, because divisions were starting to happen within the party, and I know it's ridiculous. You guys wouldn't think there would ever be divisions amongst libertarians. We agree on absolutely everything. But there were, in fact, divisions forming in 74. It was primarily between the anarchists and the minarchists. So in 1974, in order to keep the party together, they amended the statement of principles to explicitly accept anarchist views. The original statement of principles said things such as, and this will not be an exact quote, that the purpose of government is to protect rights. In 1974, they turned that on its head. They said that government must not violate rights. Now, that must not seem like a big change on the face of it, but if you think about it, in 1972, the party assigned a positive role to government. The government must protect rights. In 1974, they flipped that on its head and said the government must not violate rights. It assigned a negative role to government. And it also inserted very interesting phrases. Instead of saying government, it said existing governments, and governments where they exist, allowing for the opportunity that governments might not exist. Those were explicit nods to anarchy. The official position of the Libertarian Party is agnosticism on whether or not the state must ultimately exist. And it's been the position of the party since 1974. And whether or not some individual libertarians that you may have run into don't necessarily hold to that, the fact is, it is in the statement of principles of the party that is only amendable by a 7/8 super majority and super quorum at convention, which basically says it's impossible to change. So to that extent, anarchism is officially welcomed within the Libertarian Party, and I would say that I am a living example of that. And one thing, some people might say that political involvement is useless. Let me quote a friend of mine, Tom Knapp, who some of you might know, who's a very active anarchist within the Libertarian Party. He said the Libertarian Party is good at one thing. That's turning a small government constitutionalist into an anarchist in very short order. And I would say it certainly did that to me on September 17th, 2014. I was a small government constitutionalist. By July 23rd, the following year, I was an out-and-out anarchist, and yes, I do know the exact dates. So even if you think political involvement might be somewhat useless, it is a vehicle to turning people on to a radical liberty view. And I would say we are highly, highly effective at that. And the rewarding aspect of turning people onto that and getting a legitimacy to be able to talk to them is without parallel. If I walk up to an average person and just say, hey, I want to talk to you, about anarchism, they're going to be thinking, that probably at home I have a collection of bombs and Guy Fawkes masks that I can't wait to put on. But if you tell them that you're part of a political party, that gives you a certain credibility walking in the door, whether it should be that way or not. So within my involvement, as you see, and so is Victoria, I'm wearing a Radical Caucus t-shirt. There actually is a caucus within the Libertarian Party of predominantly anarchists, though there are radical minarchists within the group as well, and it's called the Radical Caucus of the Libertarian Party. And we exist to make sure that the Libertarian Party stays on a principled course. And if you're familiar with the Nolan chart, which determines your place on the political compass, we're north of the north part of the Nolan chart. But that's our goal, to keep the party in a principled direction. And we hold to certain key points. Whoa, sorry about that. And, well, I forgot my notes, so I'm just gonna, you guys are getting very interesting tonight because I forgot my glasses, so there's no point in even looking at my notes. But the key points of the Radical Caucus include such points that might interest you, like for instance, and maybe this will be a point of controversy that I can have some questions over, but we believe in such things as no particular orderism. What no particular orderism means is that one harmful government policy should not be held hostage, so the removal of one government policy should not be held hostage to the removal of the others. For instance, one should not say that borders should only be opened until after the welfare state is eliminated, because the fact is that the welfare states won't be eliminated first. And if the fact that opening the border leads to an increased pressure on the welfare state, that should then be used as motivation to eliminate the welfare state. When you engage in Stockholm libertarianism, as we like to call it, each side is holding a hostage, neither side wants to give them up, and the fact is that nothing changes. So as the radicals within the Libertarian Party, with the word radical meaning strike at the root, it means that we will strike at any harmful government policy wherever and whenever the opportunity presents itself. While we may in our head have a particular order that we would prefer policies happen, and obviously I would prefer that the military-industrial complex be dismantled before any sort of charity, or not charity is the wrong word because it's forced through taxation, but any kind of welfare programs. But the fact is, it's funny that some libertarians who say, oh, you must do this before this, they don't realize how ridiculous that is. They all recognize that central planning is not possible, but they think they can centrally plan liberty, that you're going to centrally plan that this policy is going to go down before this one, and that's simply not how political opportunism works. You have to strike whenever the opportunity presents, and you don't know when it will be. If you hold out for your particular pet project to be number one on the list, all that happens is that government grows. Government will continue to grow. Whenever you have the opportunity to cut it, you cut it ruthlessly. So there are a core contingent of people, if that is your values, that actually believe that. If you want to see change in this country and to open minds, I would encourage you that the political process is an invaluable way to do it. And there are plenty of people who think like you do and have the values that you do. And in fact, through the statement of principles, the Libertarian Party is absolutely welcome to you. And if you, obviously, I don't want to say if you're in the state of Colorado, I talk throughout the nation. You obviously are in the state of Colorado, you're sitting here. I'm on the board of directors of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. My husband Wayne is the chair of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. We're both members of the Radical Caucus. We have other board members here as well. So if you're wondering if you have a place, definitely in this state affiliate, you have a place and you have a voice. I would encourage you to take a look at the platform of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. I think you might be pleasantly surprised at the principles you see here. Some of you may have given up on the process, and I want to absolutely encourage you to get involved. I've been on the Tom Woods Show, and I've gotten a lot of people involved that way, but my goal is to reinvigorate a radical vision and a radical purpose and radical activism. The party was founded on a revolutionary idea, and we remain a revolutionary party, a peaceful revolution to be certain, but a revolutionary party nonetheless. So here's where, I'm going to pitch it a little bit. If you're here tonight and I've piqued your interest at all, please, after this presentation, come and talk with me. If you're somebody who's marginally involved with the Libertarian Party, I actually have some goodies here. If I can sign you up as a national member, I've got a t-shirt that comes with $25 a year dues. And true story, I actually got involved in the Libertarian Party because I wanted the free t-shirt. No lie. I saw it online, I paid my 25 bucks and I got the t-shirt, and oh my God, I'm down the rabbit hole. But it's true, and I've got some of them here. So I'd love to sign you up as a National Party member. I'd love to get you involved with the Libertarian Party of Colorado. I'd love to get you involved with the Libertarian Party Radical Caucus, the Colorado division. And I think we could absolutely go out there and help change the world. The closing line of the preamble to the Libertarian Party platform, when it sets forth certain goals, is that we say that these platform planks are not our goal. Our goal is nothing less than a world set free in our lifetime. And I think we can help to do that through the political process and through all these other means that we have, the gray market, agorism, Bitcoin, all of those things are part. I think that we have bankrupted ourselves. I'm sorry I'm a little hoarse tonight because I've been having cold the past week. But I think we have bankrupted ourselves and removed ourselves from a very important means of change when we remove ourselves entirely from the political process.